go out and you do like the ballot harvesting in states where it's legal and all that. But what he gets more than anybody else, and I think you guys agree with this, is he listens to what people are concerned about and relays that. He doesn't give a shit about what it is that the CNNs, MSNBCs, and everybody else want him to talk about.
Yeah, it's almost like those people don't have our best interests at heart.
It's shocking. I mean, I had a lot of them wanted to interview me today, and we're like, we're not doing any media because we want people to hear from the candidates. We want to hear about what their message is. I don't want to answer questions about some stupid indictment somewhere. Let's talk about what matters to people.
Yeah. No, it's well said. You're a celebrity guest picker. You realize
I don't know about celebrity.
Well, I mean, you're a big
guest picker.
We've seen your high favorables. I think that's a celebrity.
Yeah. You won your primary by like 50 points. You're a celebrity.
That's a celebrity.
52.
But who's counting?
But I think in this day and age, in a swing state, if you have 60% approval, that qualifies for celebrity no matter what.
Yeah.
Right?
Top of the evening to you. Welcome to the Culture Show. Welcome to Culture Reacts. We're going to be hopping in to the motherfucking GOP primary debate. I am absolutely excited to get started here today. If you know me, you know that every time election season comes around, you know I'm a fucking nerd and I get into it. And I get into it for real. So, yeah, we have. I'm gonna go ahead and share out the live. We're gonna, you know what I'm saying. We're gonna kind of have this playing in the background. I'm gonna jump in here, here and there. Definitely gonna jump in even more when we have the candidates actually arrived and on the stage and everything. So as of right now, we're just kind of watching Ruthless. We'll probably jump in and out of Steven Crowder's stream whenever they decide that they want to go live. We'll probably go ahead and jump in and out of there as well. So yeah, so for now, we're just going to go ahead and stream Ruthless. If you guys have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them for right now. You know what I mean? So yeah, let's just get into it. I'll go ahead and unmute it.
Right.
It ultimately didn't translate to votes. I think the person who's going to be able to translate their performance tonight into votes is Governor Ron DeSantis. And it's for the reason I mentioned earlier, and that is if everyone's attacking him, that is his comfort zone. This is a guy who deals with the media coming at him all the time. And if he takes it the same way as that exchange and responds to those attacks and commands the stage, this is a guy everyone's been talking about. Obviously, the campaign has had a lot of hiccups. I think the Super PAC did him a huge disservice with that memo that they released. And you're gonna have every single one of these mainstream media outlets. If he talks about his family tonight, they're gonna be like, "Oh, well, that was in the Super PAC memo. That is not real. You know, he's not an authentic candidate." And it's all bullshit, obviously. And you don't have to tell Ron DeSantis what to say on a debate stage. The guy can handle it. We've seen him on TV plenty. But he's got to ignore all that and just deliver his lines the way he knows how to do and respond to the people who attack him.
And recapture what we saw 3 months ago.
Not be a lawyer and explain, just deliver pain. He is a counterpuncher. Everybody says Donald Trump's a counterpuncher. Ron DeSantis is a counterpuncher.
Well said. Well said. Johnny, what do you got?
So you've got a variety of candidates on stage with different levels of experience. Some, like Chris Christie, who have done presidential debates and are very talented in this forum. And then you have some candidates who are brand new. And I think that it's a little bit of a wild card of what to expect. And I think that there is one guy in the field who is obviously brand new to the medium And
Is he from Ohio?
You're going. I mean,
Don't
this is the
say
most
that.
predictable thing I've heard yet.
Unbelievable.
The Cincy guy's going Cincy.
Are you for real?
I'm gonna go with the rookie. I'm gonna take a chance on the rookie tonight. I'm gonna say that Vivek is going to deliver on everything that he has said leading up to this debate. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I really think the guy has some talent.
He does.
And if that doesn't show tonight, it's not good for him.
So
he has. There's
good
more.
point.
There's more on his shoulders tonight than I think almost anybody else. He's at center stage, and he has earned the spot in center stage. But I think we'll find out tonight whether that is a blessing that turns into a curse if he cannot keep up.
And we know that the Trump campaign's rooting for him tonight. He's the best surrogate they have. I'm surprised they let him in the venue.
Everybody but La Savita, because he's going to replace him as the national spokesperson.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So now we have the celebrity. You've given this thought, obviously. You're friends with basically everybody on stage. Governor, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm going to pick the loser of the debate instead of the winner. Can I do that?
Yeah.
Sure.
So I'm thinking, my thinking, and this is a political answer, but it really is the truth. I think everybody here is a winner because they've gotten in the race. Takes a lot of guts to do that. They've been putting their heart and soul into it. And, quite honestly, had to do some things that I don't really think you ought to have, governors, former ambassadors, U.S. senators, and other people trying to say, hey, give me $1 so I can get on the debate stage, but that wasn't my call. So I just appreciate all of them being out there. I think it's going to be a great night for people to really see where the field is and learn a lot about people. I think the Trump campaign's making a big mistake by not being here. They are my loser tonight. I think, being from Georgia, spent a lot of time in Atlanta, I feel like they're in the situation the Falcons were in when the Super Bowl when it was 28-3.
My God!
Wow. And that takes pain for you to surface that.
But you remember what happened, right?
I remember.
You get complacent. You get into prevent defense. You try to start spinning all this stuff instead of just simply answering the tough questions like everybody else behind us is going to do tonight. Because damn well there's going to be some tough questions, even if Brett and Martha don't ask them. You're going to have some back and forth with Christie and people going after Vivek to see if he's more than an acre wide and an inch deep, and seeing who's going to overperform, and a lot of pressure on people like Desantis, and then other people not so much that I think can have really good nights, like the former vice president and other people. But I think not being in that mix is.
I gotta say,
I just think. Like if you're as good as you say you are, get your ass on there, answer the questions, fight it out, and let's get it done.
Well,
that's just my opinion. Look, I'm not saying that just because I've battled with President Trump. He's been mad at me. I haven't been mad at him. But that's just the way I think. You get in that prevent defense a lot of times, all of a sudden the score tightens. Mm-hmm. And the thing about this race, there's a big polling gap right now. But let's say a few people do get out, and let's say that race tightens, and all of a sudden it's a, 12 or a 15-point lead, or then it gets down to 11 or 12. All of a sudden there's going to be some tightening in somewhere else. And then all of a sudden it's momentum, who's got it, who doesn't, and then you see what happens. And then you're going to learn who's got really good ground games, who's got staying power, and so we'll see.
I mean, I got to say, there have been many times the Chicago Bulls were up big, right? But Jordan never left at halftime.
No.
He always showed up. And you're someone who won big, and you never stepped away, even when you were up by 50 points. I think, I mean, I got to agree.
Oh, let me tell you, we wanted to run ads the Wednesday after the election. I mean,
Was it just you? Was it just you spiking a football?
The staff wouldn't let me do it.
No, but to your point, Governor, look, the biggest mistake you can make in politics is to take a vote for granted, right? And the one thing that we saw from you from the first day you were a candidate, the first time, all the way through controversies and everybody pronouncing you politically dead, is that you went out and you talked and you listened to people, and in the end, when you carried their message, they were with you in the end.
And look, I know people, there's a lot of other people that think the former president's doing the right thing here. I'm just telling you my opinion. We'll see as this plays out. But it's the thing is, we have a great opportunity to beat Joe Biden.
Yeah.
And
that's why we're all here.
Send them to the House, and regardless of what happens and how it shakes out, that's the team I'm going to be on.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Listen, Governor Brian Kemp, can't thank you enough for coming up here. I mean, let's have a night, huh? Let's have a night. Let's have a night.
Thanks for having me back.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. That segment was sponsored by our good friends at the Americans for Tax Reform, the keepers of the Taxpayer Protection Pledge. ATR is fighting liberals' attempts to dramatically expand IRS reach and power. We remember this about the 87,000 situation.
Oh, yeah.
The IRS is getting more corrupt and collecting more sensitive data than ever, and even pushing it to get in business and tax preparation, which is nonsense. We appreciate all the good work that ATR is doing. You can learn more at atr.org. Listen, fellas, this is a hell of a day.
It's been incredible.
This is what we came for. This is why we started this program. This is why you guys listen.
Yeah.
When we first started this, it was to be in the backdrop of Fiserv Forum at a presidential debate and be a part of this conversation and take your voices along with us. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Did we do it?
I think we did it. Absolute banger of a game day pregame show. Gentlemen, thank you so much to the governor. Thank you so much to our wonderful guests and our wonderful sponsors. And thank you to all of you for tuning in at home. So until next time, minions, keep the faith, hold the wine, and
own the libs.
We'll see you next time. Stay ruthless. Thank you. Oh, that was awesome.
All right, so we got about an hour or so, about a little over an hour and 8 minutes until the debate starts. Let's do some reactions. Let's do some reactions. Let's see what we got going on today. Yeah, that's sure. Okay. What's up?
To Biden, we at least got to get some comic relief. But now we're moving on to the main course. This is Biden really trying to hide his involvement with everything.
House Oversight Chair James Comer demanding new bank records. He says will tell a big story into President Biden's involvement in Hunter's overseas business deals. This as we've learned that then VP Biden used fake names and then copied his son on emails regarding Ukraine. Now, Comer says he's headed to court for the bank records. He's told Maria on Sunday Morning Futures he expects to have them by this Wednesday.
What exactly have you learned?
Well, we've learned that Joe Biden used at least 3 pseudonyms or fake names in emails that he was receiving from people within the federal government, people that worked for him. And even more troubling than that, Maria, we've learned that when he was receiving emails pertaining to Ukraine, his son Hunter was copied on them, which we've always heard that the White House has said that Hunter Biden wasn't an employee of the government. He wasn't any part of the government. If that were true, then why was he receiving emails from the government?
Up until this point,
Joining me now
we've
is
already heard all this.
Congresswoman Claudia Tenney. She is a member of the House Ways and Means Committee. Congresswoman, your reaction to what James Comer told Maria yesterday?
This is stunning. We went from, I don't have anything to do with my son's businesses. I don't know anything about it. I've never talked to him, to I'm not involved, to now he's using pseudonyms to actually hide the fact that he's involved with Hunter's dealings, especially with Burisma, that Hunter is directly involved helping the family as a proxy for Joe Biden and the rest of them. And James Comer has revealed the money that has gone to various members of the Biden family. That's why he's going to be getting the bank records showing the transfers of that money. That's something they can't hide. That was actually brought to his attention by the suspicious activity reports. And you're going to see all these I's dotted and T's crossed, showing that Joe Biden is corrupt. Hunter Biden not only is, violating tax law, he's violating the Foreign Agent Registration Act. This is money laundering through Joe Biden to his son and family members. Remember, there was a text message from the so-called laptop that has now been proven to be true that Hunter Biden sent to his daughter saying, don't worry, I'm going to give you all the money. I'm not going to split it in half like I do with my father. So all this is going to be really bad news for Joe Biden. But the problem is we've got a corrupt, dirty cop, Merrick Garland, at the head of the Department of Justice. You have the FBI continuing to cover for at the top levels, to cover for Joe Biden and his family, completely corrupt. And by the way, Cheryl, all this is being done to make it look like Joe Biden isn't really that bad, because they're bringing these phony charges against President Trump to make it look like he's an equivalent, and it's not. This is crime happening in plain sight, and our country's top brass, our top law enforcement agencies are covering it up to help the president, who they view as their boss and the person that's in power.
Well, and we've learned now that the Justice Department reportedly had no plans to even charge Hunter Biden with either the tax or the gun crimes. Lawyers for the IRS whistleblowers.
If I'm being honest, I didn't expect anything else from Biden. He's been a compulsive and pathological liar his whole life. They say his whole life. That's not fair. But at least the last 50 years. Corrupt Joe, man, taking advantage of the American people and profiting very big off of it. But my assumption is, unfortunately, I don't think nothing will come of it. At this point, I'm kind of like, bro, let's stop talking about it. Let's continue this impeachment process. You know what? I'm starting to think that the Democrats are only covering Biden to cover their own ass. Pretty sure they'll love to get rid of Joe. He a liability, for sure. I'm going to finish my commentary at the end, but you can't tell me that Obama ain't involved in this, and don't say that was random.
Boss and the person that's in power.
Well, and we've learned now that the Justice Department reportedly had no plans to even charge Hunter Biden with either the tax or the gun crimes. Lawyers for the IRS whistleblowers told the New York Times that attorney David Weiss, who's now the special counsel in charge of investigating Hunter Biden, would not have brought the charges if the whistleblowers did not speak out in front of Congress, in front of you and your colleagues. And then we're also learning that Hunter's legal team once vowed to put President Biden on the stand during his trial. Hunter's legal team. These are documents obtained by Politico, and they show his former attorney saying, well, if a sitting president testifies, it could cause a constitutional crisis. And those threats are the reason that Hunter Biden got this sweetheart deal, which, again, the judge just threw out.
Literally just threw it out.
Absolutely. This is astounding. We have, people talk about Watergate. I mean, look, Nixon didn't commit the crime. He committed the cover-up. Joe Biden and his family are committing crimes in plain sight and engaging in the cover-up, using our agencies. David Weiss has lied, tried to cover up, and yet Merrick Garland puts him in charge as a special prosecutor.
Garland
this is
corrupt
totally
as hell.
Corrupt and inappropriate. And the only opportunities we have, we can use our subpoena power. We can bring them into under oversight. But until we take back the White House, and until we can get maybe private and statewide prosecutors like the Democrats are doing, which is, by the way, malicious prosecution. It's abuse of process, using Georgia prosecutors, using Alvin Bragg in New York City, bringing cases which are unfair and not a jury of President Trump's peers in Washington, D.C. I mean, this is the kind of stuff the Democrats are doing because they are diabolical and they're shameless and they don't care. It's all about power. Right to the bitter end. And this is really tragic for our country. I hope people see it, but there's not much we can do except we can employ private lawsuits. We can engage in getting them into court. But remember, as the House of Representatives, we can't sue. We can't actually prosecute. We can refer criminal investigations to the Department of Justice, but you know they're going to get buried by dirty cop Merrick Garland and the people over there. The FBI is going to look the other way. They covered up the laptop. It's really a tragedy for our country to see this unfolding before our eyes.
Well, Congresswoman, you brought up the gift that keeps on giving, and that's Alvin Bragg here in New York City. Let's talk about what's happening in New York State and in New York City. So SUNY Buffalo now evicting 44 migrants from their dorms after parents spoke out about it. They say they're concerned about student safety. Shocker. Critics calling the decision discriminatory. The migrants have been living at the school since February, Congresswoman. This is in your state, my state. What do you say?
Look, I spoke out against this when we got a breath that they were going to be using SUNY dorms across the state. We launched a letter to them. We're going to be doing another letter. Is the federal government paying for this? I think so. Well, Texas Governor Greg Abbott's being accused. We think the federal government is doing this. Remember, they were paying for those flights all over the country, including the secret night flights into Westchester that we heard about last year. And now they're abusing the New York taxpayers. And Kathy Hochul is a proxy. She's going along with this. She allowed these people to be put in there. We've had two accusations of either rape or sex abuse. We have cases of tuberculosis. They are putting the American citizen, especially New Yorkers, at grave risk. Not only is this a security risk, you're hurting the taxpayers. You're undermining their ability to attain wealth and to have security in their own homes. And I don't mean wealth in the big way. I mean just being able to keep
basic
their savings
necessities,
because their tax dollars are being drained to the tune of $20 million a month to house illegal migrants.
Yeah.
We can't have an out-of-control migration in this country. We've got to get it under control.
I'm not sure when the voters of New York are going to wake up. Your district is awake, but apparently New York City is not. And what's happening in Buffalo?
Did this migrant situation come as a surprise to anybody? Let me know in the comments. I remember reading somewhere that somebody wrote, not in this video, that illegals should be distributed across states equally. And I say no. This shouldn't be allowed in our nation. You should be able to come through the correct process to get in here. So I think closing the border should be number one. And I mean, seriously, where's the effort? I'm looking at this comment right here saying, who can stop this? The crooks have all the power, and it seems that no one has the power to stop them. That's right, because of the first half of your sentence. They have all the power. They got all these politicians, the FBI, all these judges, everybody in these public officials, everybody in their pocket, bro. This is clearly harming Americans. It's taking away jobs and opportunities. And in addition to that, providing a less safe environment for your family. Not just because you have illegals, but because it's like, I don't know you and you're around my family. Somebody else wrote, nothing will come of this. The Democrats have the elections locked down. They don't even have to campaign. I mean, if you see everything that's been going on with Joe, homies just stay in the crib, but he's still coming out here now and again making a video and making headway. How? Well, we got everything that's going on with these immigrants. Like, come on, bro. Where's the DOJ? And outside of the immigrant crisis, the DOJ, man, they really just gonna let Hunter Biden and Biden slide? Serious, man. You got Biden out here using fake names. Look, if you're using fake names, you're obviously doing something you don't need to be doing. But Trump can go to prison. Biden could do all this right in our face. Nothing happened. Seriously, how was it so easy for everybody to go out and want to impeach Trump? But as it pertains to Biden, everybody seems to be turning the corner, looking the other way. Nobody is above the law. But again, that's only if you're not a Biden.
This is that is the case. We all know Hunter Biden just so happens to be one of the men that is above the law. Does not have to play by the same rules that we do. Okay. This is a guy right here Vivek Ramaswamy. Let's see what Colin North.
Recently, I had the opportunity to have a conversation about the Second Amendment with
Guy's a presidential candidate right now. I'm going to be watching him a little later tonight. I'm actually really most of the reason I'm even tuning into this to the debate tonight is to watch Vivek Ramaswamy. I think Vivek Ramaswamy is a very interesting candidate. I think he's very thoughtful. I think he's very thought-provoking. Very intelligent. He's a good talker. And he has very deep and descriptive policies that I'm really hoping that I get more of a chance to see some of that tonight. So let's go ahead and pop on there.
Presidential hopeful Vivek Ramaswamy. I generally don't make it a point to blatantly endorse a particular politician on my platform. However, I am incredibly open to having any politician come on my platform and have a two-way conversation. And that's what happened here. I do have my preferences and my favorites with respect to different politicians. And sometimes I speak on it, sometimes I don't. But more importantly, my platform is open to any politician that wants to come and have these types of conversations. Here is the conversation I had with Ramaswamy, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the conversation, and hopefully we get more politicians to come onto the platform and have the very important conversation that we need to have regarding the Second Amendment.
All right, just Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek
Ramaswamy.
Vivek Ramaswamy.
You got it.
Yeah, I butcher names, man. I'm terrible.
That's all right. Yeah. I've been getting that all my life, so I'm used to it.
Hey,
it's a long name. There's a lot of syllables in there.
Oddly, it happens to me too.
Yeah, I bet it does. Coleon, I got that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, you hit it right on the head.
Yeah.
So you're running for president.
Yes.
All right. So generally speaking, what would you say your platform? What are you running on? What is the general message?
Yeah,
behind
I'm running on reviving our national identity.
Okay.
We have lost our sense of who we are. Right. You and I were both millennials.
Yep.
I'm the youngest person ever to run for president in the Republican Party. And I think the problem in our country is, you know this, you ask people our age, probably people any age in this country, what does it mean to be an American today? You get like a blank stare in response.
Yeah.
And that's a void. That is a vacuum. And when you have a vacuum that runs that deep, that is when the poison fills the void. And we could wokeism, transgenderism, climatism, pick your favorite one. That's what's going on in the country. And I think our solution to that is deliver a vision of American national identity that runs so deep that it dilutes the poison to irrelevance. And the top of that vision is the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution, which is the operating manual. That is the greatest source and strongest source of freedom in human history. That's what we need to revive.
So what would you say to somebody who's a Generation Zer, who's like, oh, Constitution, it's outdated, it doesn't really matter anymore? You know, because a lot of you pointed out, a lot of them don't even really, they look at the flag as kind of being something amorphous throwaway. It doesn't even really matter.
Or worse, hostile to their identity.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So what would you say to someone like that? Because I'll be honest, me coming up, I understood the Constitution. I understood it was important. It was an important document. But it wasn't until I got older to I really understood how important that document was.
Yes.
So what would you say to someone like that who's kind of like, why should I care about the Constitution?
Yeah, so it's a good question because that's a big part of what you get from Gen Z.
Yeah.
There's first what I want to do to make sure we don't get that question, which is I think every young person who graduates as a high school senior should have to know the same thing about the country that an immigrant has to know in order to become a citizen of this country. Part of the problem is young people don't value a country that they just passively inherit. And that's not their fault, that's our fault. That's a generation of people who are bringing up our kids, putting them through the educational system, graduating without knowing the first thing about what the country was founded on. That's a big part of the problem.
Absolutely.
I think actually what I see when I'm talking to young people is not just agnosticism.
Okay.
It's actually, there's a form of almost guilt that they've been taught to have. So I think that when they act agnostic, I think it's actually a symptom of a deeper self-loathing. This idea that we're an imperfect nation. We were founded on slavery. We were effectively built in 1619, not 1776. So being proud of that is actually in some ways unjust.
Yeah.
You go to Washington, D.C. in the month of June, you'll see more trans flags, I'm not kidding, than you will see American flags. I took my son there. The combination of trans flags as well as Ukraine flags outnumbered the number of U.S. flags that we saw in the month of June in Washington, D.C. So what do I tell young people then? Our worst hypocrisies as a country are still our best evidence that we have ideals at all. Right? So if you're going to be a nation built on ideals, because that's what the Constitution enshrines, the Bill of Rights, your favorite amendment, my favorite amendment, my second favorite amendment. First Amendment's my favorite, Second Amendment, second favorite. That is a statement of ideals for a free people. We as human beings are born free. We were made to be free, okay? And so that's the document that enshrines the essence of our humanity, our freedom to pursue our own destiny. And so have we fallen short of that at times in our nation's history? Yes, we have. But you never call Iran or China a hypocrite, because to be a hypocrite, you had to have ideals in the first place. Yeah. So don't abandon those ideals. Don't become callous or anesthetized to those ideals. Celebrate those ideals. Say, you know what, we're going to fall short of them because we're human beings. We're not gods, but still run to those ideals because we're the last best hope of a nation that can enshrine those ideals at all. That's what the U.S. Constitution's about.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, I remember I had a conversation with Bill Maher, and he asked me, you know, how could I be an African American who espouses the Second Amendment based on the Constitution when it's supposed to be written to control Black people? And I go, and then basically I said exactly what you just said in different words, but because of the purity of the language of that document, I sit before you now as one of the most vocal and forward-facing two-way advocates in this country.
I know you are, and it's interesting. I mean, you know, some of this is controversial to go into, but let's go into that claim from Bill Maher. I think I'm going to see him later this week or whenever it is myself. And I respect him because at least even if he's on the left, he still embraces patriotism as a value.
And he's willing to have the conversation.
And he's willing to have the conversation. You know, the Dred Scott case, the case that infamously said that Black people could not be citizens before the Civil War. The main justification that the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Roger Taney, gave was that would allow Black people to own guns in this country. So in a certain sense, I love the way you said it. These are words that transcend color, creed. This goes beyond the specific genetic identities we inhabit. And that's also what I even say to some, you know, friends who have different views on the right, where, no, this country is not founded on a given ethnicity. I'm sorry, it's not. The beautiful thing about this country is we're founded on a set of ideals that brought together a, diverse, divided, different colored group of people together. It's not our diversity that our strength. Our strength is what unites us across that diversity. That's what that Constitution's all about.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's why I'm so passionate about it.
No, I love it. I love it. So you mentioned the idea of immigrants. Like I'm come from immigrant parents, and
Where did your parents come from?
Nigeria.
Okay.
Right. So there wasn't really a background of firearms in my background. I didn't grow up with guns.
Believe me, yeah.
Right. There's this.
I don't know about your family, actually. My family, I grew up in a pretty anti-gun household.
Same
Actually.
here.
You did? Okay.
Yeah, pretty same. Like I remember when I bought my first rifle, I hid it under my bed.
You did?
But I had a number of guns in my mom's house. And I was just about to go to law school.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was still hiding from my mother because those things, guns.
My parents weren't super happy when I got mine either, I will say.
Those firearms symbolize something else. They symbolize them street life. Like I was in a gang or something of that sort. But for me, it represented something so different. And so my question was going to ask you, like, based on your background and your parents, how would you manage that in terms of helping immigrants who do come to this country, who do look at the gun thing and say, I love America, but I don't understand this gun thing. Why do we need the Second Amendment? Why do we need guns in America? Because that's what I get a lot from the people that I know who are immigrants who come here. They love the country, but they say, why the Second Amendment?
So it's interesting because I think immigrants who come from other democratic nations may be different than immigrants who come from places like Iran. Okay, or China or other despotic regimes. Here's why. China and Iran. So I brought them up earlier. Let's use those two examples. Both countries actually, on paper, even in their constitutions, enumerate the same freedoms we have in our Bill of Rights, except the Second Amendment. So the Second Amendment is actually the amendment that puts the teeth into all of the other ones. I went to the NRA meeting and, a guy was trying to quiz me. He says, what does AR-15 stand for? I said, it stands for freedom, actually. That's what it stands for. And you know what? When the British in the American Revolution, where do they want to come? Where the guns and bullets were kept. Because they understand that would have been the source of freedom. Black Americans, after the Civil War, to go what Tani said before the Civil War, after the Civil War, a lot of the main laws that were passed during the so-called Reconstruction era that stopped Black Americans from securing the freedoms that we fought a Civil War to actually secure were the first wave of anti-gun laws that stopped Black Americans from owning guns. So whether it's Iran, whether it's China, whether it's even our own nation at our less proud points in our history, we actually need to provide a backstop, okay, for all of the other rights that are written on a piece of paper. What allows us to secure those rights in real life? The way I explain it to people is it's like the equivalent of when the Cold War, we had this concept of mutually assured destruction, right? The US and Soviet Union would never go to war because each side knew they were subject to destruction by the other. And so that actually gave us the peace that kept the war cold rather than hot. It makes some people uncomfortable when I say this, but I think it's the true spirit of the Second Amendment. That's what happens when you have a relationship between a government and its people. People of sheep breed a government of wolves. That's what the Second Amendment's about.
And
is to make sure we are not a people of sheep, or else we will have the government we deserve, a government of wolves.
You rarely ever hear anyone in politics say that.
That's the truth.
There's this idea that the whole Second Amendment is based around sports shooting or even to some degree hunting. That's not what it was about.
I'm not a guy who does that stuff, right?
Yeah. You wouldn't consider yourself a gun guy, so to speak.
No, I am a Second Amendment guy.
Gotcha.
And that's really more fundamental.
That's a beautiful point because a lot of people don't understand that distinction.
Yeah.
Because you can be a gun guy and still be anti-Second Amendment.
Oh, I mean, there's
it's very rare, but it happens.
But it can happen. Or you could be a gun guy but not know why,
exactly.
right? Like you're just sort of going through the motions. I think I like the Second Amendment, but like, what was that again?
And I think it's more important to be a Second Amendment person.
I mean, that's what the country's built on, right? That goes. People are allowed to have their hobbies. I like to play tennis, play basketball, and given days, shooting guns. We just did it right now. We had a lot of fun. It was fun in there.
Yeah.
That's not what the Second Amendment's about. Yeah. The Second Amendment is about our freedom of speech. It is about the freedom to exercise our religion. It is about making sure the government does not knock on my doorstep and search my house without showing up with a warrant that a court actually gave them pursuant to the Fourth Amendment. It is about making sure that that which is not reserved to the federal government actually is reserved to the states and to the people. That's what the Second Amendment is about, all the way through the 14th Amendment. To say that nobody, because of your skin color or mine, is going to stop me from showing up at the ballot box and casting my vote. Nobody is going to tell somebody in this country that they can't travel from one state to another because of their religion or because of their skin color or their beliefs. Because if a government overreaches by that much, they know they're going to have hell to pay for it.
So
that's what the Second Amendment was built to create. And does that make some of us feel like a little uncomfortable? I mean, is that a little bit of an uncomfortable idea?
Maybe it is, though.
It is. And that's the discomfort, right? I mean, it's just so important to pause on this.
Yeah.
Like that sense of discomfort, that's the whole ballgame. That is the pill we swallow to secure our freedoms. That's the reality.
Absolutely. So what would you say to someone like Biden? So for instance, Biden says, well, kind of laughs at it and says,
yeah,
you're going to need more than your stupid little guns. We have F-16s and bombs and all types of things. There's no way you people could ever stop the government from doing what it wants, stop the government from overreach in that manner. What would you say to someone like that?
Well, I'm not sure that Biden could say that as coherently as you just did. And, you know, I think one of the mistakes we sometimes make on our side, I don't know if you lean, I mean, I assume you're conservative leaning, you know, guy.
I consider myself just right of center.
Right. Just, okay. Yeah, I mean, because if you're going to be pro Second Amendment and you can be left of center and all the things, I'll still say good for that because at least you understand the Constitution. But I would say a mistake that many people on the right would make, many of my peers in the presidential race or otherwise, they'll talk about Joe Biden while failing to recognize he's not even the person in charge. He's just a symbol. He's a puppet of a managerial class and agenda deeper than him. But I think that's a view that you sometimes hear is, well, it's never going to help you anyway. I don't think that's so true. You want to know why? I could give you a separate example in another country. The Chinese state media, got really rankled. I was under their skin, apparently, when I gave my speech at the NRA. When I said, you want to actually figure out how we secure Taiwan, deter China from invading without actually us going to war over it, turn Taiwan into a porcupine. Put a gun in every Taiwanese household, open a branch of the NRA there, train them how to use it. You tell me whether China's going to invade. They are scared out of their minds out of it, people who actually have a Second Amendment. And you know who else has the equivalent of F-16s and B-23s and B-2s and everything else and submarines and full-on military and a naval capacity ahead of the United States? It's actually China. So I think that for a government, they want to still have a people left to rule, right? So it doesn't work like, there's nuclear weapons, but like then everybody's out. Who are you going to exercise power over, right? And so that argument doesn't really work, even if you put yourself in the shoes of the monarch or the autocrat. No. I need you to exist because I have to exert my power, dominion, and control over you. And so, yes, you're darn right. The Second Amendment is indeed what keeps that government at bay.
So let's say, for instance,
and can I just make one more comment? Because this is a good conversation, right? Everyone's just like, I support the Second Amendment without getting into the why. Here's the other thing is that argument just paves the way for why, the counter argument sometimes you'll hear from some people is that, well, it just means the weapons that existed in 1776 were the only ones that we had the freedoms to own. The other argument cuts the other direction. Forget the nuclear weapons, but like the government does have a lot bigger guns than the ordinary people do today. So that changes what the Second Amendment means today relative to what it did mean in 1776, back when the government only had, the muskets that they had back then. Exactly, right? The equivalent of cannons or nuclear bombs and the equivalent of muskets or automatic weapons that the government has too. So that's all I would say on that point too.
No, I love that. Is there, so the other side, when I say the other side, I don't mean it dismissively or flippantly, but the other side likes to say, well, you guys never compromise. You never compromise. You never give an inch. Is there anything that you'd be willing to say compromise? Or is there any type of gun control law that you say, you know what, maybe we should look into that a little bit further?
Here's what I say, and I say this on all issues in the campaign. This isn't just restricted to 2A. I think we're in bad need of national unity. We're a badly divided country. And I understand even many other Republicans who I respect and admire, they believe the right way to get there is through compromise. I don't think the way we get to national unity is by compromising on our ideals. I think the way we get to national unity is by actually being uncompromising about the ideals that unite us as Americans. E pluribus unum means from many one. The ideals that unite America, the ideals of 1776, those are radical ideals. Those are ideals that should make most of human history feel a little uncomfortable. Free speech, Second Amendment, open debate, self-governance, the idea that we, the people, select our leaders through a constitutional republic rather than in the back of palace halls, those are extreme ideals.
Yeah.
But that is what makes us ourselves. That's what makes America great. That's what makes America America.
Yeah.
And so the way we're going to unite this country is actually by rediscovering, dare I say it, the radicalism of the American Revolution. Now, we have pragmatic issues in this country, like a rise in violent crime. We do. You don't want that. I don't want that. And, you know, even many of our friends on the left, that's what concerns them. So my point is, let's not just like split the baby over here. No, let's go over there and figure out the real problem, the mental health epidemic across this country. We have to have the courage to talk about removing, instead of removing guns from law-abiding citizens, let's have the courage to talk about removing severely psychiatrically deranged people who pose a danger to their communities from those communities. That's a hard conversation. But if you want to address the root cause, that's what this is about. I'm a parent of two sons. You have a family. You're not yet. You're younger than you're
About a year older.
generation. Okay, you look younger.
Yeah.
That's why, because kids will do that to you.
My mom's not happy with that, but that's another story.
Kids will do that. Kids will do that to you. Okay, but here's what I'll say is, I say this like, look, my older son's about to enter school, and does it give me some deep pause and concern when I see yet another school shooting in this country? Yes, it does. You want to know who's doing it? Mentally deranged, psychiatrically ill people. And you want to protect our kids? Protect our kids.
Yeah.
For 25% of what we spend in the federal Department of Education, by the way, that's the federal government, has nothing to do with local education. For less than 25% of that, we could put 3 armed security guards in every school across this country. So we've got to have the courage to actually solve the real problem rather than doing the thing that they're even doing in Tennessee now. They haven't released the Nashville Shooter Manifesto, yet Republican Governor Bill Lee is literally within days convening a special session of the legislature to pass a red flag law, to take guns away from law-abiding citizens, as opposed to taking actual problematic people, psychiatrically deranged people, out of their communities. That's what we need to have more of an honest conversation about. That's what takes real courage, not just passing another red flag law.
Gotcha. So when we were in this shooting, we shot semi-autos, we shot full autos, we shot lever action. What are your feelings about full auto? Because right now we have the NFA that says, it's basically more or less bans fully automatic guns from regular citizens being able to own them. How do you feel? What is your position on full automatic, regular people being able to own fully automatic weapons?
I think that's what's constitutionally required. The government has fully automatic weapons.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what's enshrined in the Second Amendment. As a side note, I also enjoyed shooting it.
Yeah.
And it was a fun experience, right? I was actually, I told you, I'm not like some expert shooter. I've shot semi-automatic. That might have been my first time shooting an automatic at a range, actually. But it's not because I like that, and that's fun. No, that's not the reason why, actually. The reason why is it is what the modern understanding of the Second Amendment in the world we live in today means. in the same way that George Washington, if he were alive today, would mean it. That's really why. It's an originalist understanding of the Constitution and the purpose of the Second Amendment.
Absolutely. So I'll leave you with this one last question. It's something I just thought about on the spot. It's an idea that I had that just came to me. If you were to become president, and we talked about not putting in no more gun control laws, and being able to address the root causes of whatever issues.
That's very important, though. I'm big on that.
Yes. How would you feel about, like, we're spending billions and we're sending billions of dollars to other countries, right?
Yes.
And my biggest thing for me is we live in a country with over 300 million guns, right? But then we have a culture that's divided where you have a group of people on this side who know a lot about firearms and another group of people who don't know very much about firearms and are like, yeah, guns, icky. And you become president. Would you be in favor of creating an incentive for people to become better educated and to become more responsible and learn gun safety on a national level?
I quite like that a lot, actually. I quite like that a lot. It goes along with, so there's some deeply nationalistic elements to my platform. I'll give you one of them, and we don't have to go down this rabbit hole here because there's been plenty of controversy around it. But my view is that every 18-year-old, in order to get the right to vote, has to either pass the same civics test that an immigrant has to pass, or else do at least 6 months of military or first responder role, which is generally police or military. Well, what do you get in the police or military? You get training on how to use a gun, right? And so I don't favor necessarily the government mandating it, but to say that, hey, because I also, in that context, would decriminalize selective service. Young men now have to register for the draft effectively between ages 18 to 25. I say eliminate that, but instead say, if you want the civic privileges, like voting, well, then you have to know something about the country or serve the country. I think as part of that, I like that. I mean, I don't want to make a presidential policy on the fly here, but the intuition is, I like baking that into almost a form of civic education, actually. Because it is part of what's baked into citizenship, is that which is baked into the Constitution, and the Second Amendment is absolutely baked into that Constitution. Is that somebody to teach them to be a hunter on the weekends? No. It's actually to prepare them as a citizen and to understand what the stakes are, when push comes to shove and times get bad, and from time to time in human history they do. That's the backstop that we're up against. And I think that more people will probably emerge with a greater respect for not just the Second Amendment, but the entire Constitution if we did do it. So I think our conversation and me having to respond to you might have just convinced me into a pretty strong vision of citizenship, actually.
Yeah, that's kind of an idea that I've grown to over the times of what I've been doing from an advocacy perspective.
I like that a lot.
I have so many people on both sides that I know, and I'm all for everyone going out and being responsible gun owners, but I want them to be responsible gun owners. I'm not saying mandate. I don't want to be mandated by the government.
Yeah, but we create the opportunity for it. We create the opportunity for it, the space for it.
Absolutely.
In the same way, I mean, the concept of what I say, the same civics test about our history and our Constitution that an immigrant has to pass in order to be a citizen of this country. If you think about the Constitution as an operating manual and the Second Amendment as an operating manual, maybe you want to know the operating manual of how to take advantage of your Second Amendment rights. I quite like it, man. Smart.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for taking the time.
Man. You're the man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, keep up the good work. And
enjoy shooting.
I just wanted to also tell you, man, there's a lot of good ways to have an impact on the country. And I say this as somebody who is not from the world of politics. I'm not a politician. I built businesses. That's my background. I barely, came over the hump to say, okay, this is what I need to be able to do to make my contribution to the country. But I say this to you is you're driving real change in this country too. And I think that if your voice is reaching more people, especially because you're not some political hack, you're not offering some sort of just platitudes about, rah, rah, Second Amendment without saying the why. You're an intellectually curious guy. I think you will have an opportunity to persuade people who otherwise might have thought themselves dogmatic on this issue and more broadly on our Constitution too. So keep at it.
Absolutely.
That's important. It's not just going to come from the White House.
Oh, thank you. Much appreciated.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it, Cult-ure.
Yes, sir.
Good seeing you, man.
You too.
Guns aren't political. That's why I need your help getting this message to spread on YouTube by clicking the thumbs up button, leaving a comment to let me know what you think of the video, then subscribing to the channel. But most importantly, click that bell symbol. For products featured in this video, click the links in the description.
I'm Hope Byrne with clearsale.com, and I want to buy your house. I'll make you an
Sometimes being broke is really fun. You know, you pay for YouTube Premium, you don't get to laugh at this female. You know what I'm saying? You don't get to laugh at her. Mm.
Joe Biden might want to be wide awake for tonight's GOP debate. The big guy prepping for a barrage of attacks from candidates who want to kick him out of the Oval Office. But he's not worried. He's going zen. The president took a Pilates class followed by a spin class while on their ritzy vacation in Lake Tahoe. And it looks like it could be a late night for Biden.
Will you watch the debates later?
I'm going to try to see if we can get as much as I can. What's your expectation for the GOP debate tonight? I have none.
The Democrats are making a pathetic attempt to troll the debate, and it's already backfiring. Dems will pay to fly a private plane around Milwaukee with an extreme MAGA banner. But here's the kicker. The stunt will reportedly emit nearly 4 times as much carbon as the average American produces in a day. The DNC chair also taking a page out of Biden's ultra MAGA playbook by painting all the candidates as extremists.
They're all extreme. All of the apples in that bag are rotten. That contrast is stark between who Joe Biden is. Joe Biden believes that our better days are ahead of us and not behind us. The Republicans believe that our best days are behind us. And so we're going to paint that picture. Tonight, folks, get your popcorn. It's going to be a circus.
Hey, Denver. Google Fiber Web Pass is expanding in your area, and we're
going to be a circus.
All right, Greg, regarding the DNC banner, isn't it ironic how the Democrats claim to be a party of unity, and yet right during the Republican debate, they're flying this banner? Aren't they the ones stoking division?
Well, I mean, this is team sport politics. By the way, I love the fact that Biden's taking a spin class.
Yeah.
And my whole thing is like I've been watching, you know what I'm saying, open content on these motherfuckers all day. Cause like I said, I'm in it. And something that really pisses me off, something that really grinds my fucking gears, right? These motherfuckers on MSNBC were saying something like none of these people believe in democracy anymore. None of these Republicans believe in democracy anymore. As they're gearing up to go on the Democratic journey of a presidential candidate, as the Democrats don't even, like, they're not even doing any debates. They're not even doing it. They're like, nobody else is running. Like, RFK Jr. is trying to run. And they're like, okay, that's fine, but we're not going to debate you. Like, that's it. But we're gonna put Joe Biden in harm's way. Like, what? We're gonna do what? But like, the craziest thing that might happen, that maybe might, is Gavin Newsom might, like, that's what I've been hearing. Gavin Newsom might come, like not Kamala Harris. I've heard rumblings of Michelle Obama. I don't believe that. Yeah, like, there's a lot of I don't, but like for the main part, like, they're not doing any debates. They're not doing the democratic process. They're not going along with the process and they have the nerve to call Republicans, extremists, and saying that we don't believe in democracy, and like it's the hypocrisy is crazy, and it's a sole example like of why I like left the left.
Yeah, because that's at least the bike stands still. So he's going to be safe. I think this is a really important point to make. Here, Joe Biden's record will be on display for millions of people for the very first time because the media hasn't done its job on crime and in border and education and the drug epidemic. So this debate could very well be an introduction to the Biden disaster, the Biden era. It might be the first time people have ever heard about Hunter influence peddling, the $700 that they'd lose a month that could have been used, for example, for a 3-day vacation with their family or get their kid a bike. You've got to quantify that poetically for people to understand it. And the sheer corruption will finally be heard by millions of Americans that didn't know it before. And again, I say what I said before, which is that it would be really good. The ad hominem stuff works for people who are already on your side. You have to do something with the facts and be specific. And again, the $700 is a really persuasive thing to like, for people who've never heard of Joe, what Joe does, that you're losing $700 a month on him. And the other part about it is, and this is to me is the kill, well, there's two kill shots here. One, you don't need to make fun of him anymore. It's kind of sad. The bigger insult is laying off him. It's like, you know what? This guy isn't well. We need to move beyond him, get past the sale and talk about what's next. But the problem with the Democrats is they have Kamala Harris, so they can't move.
But that's why I like Vivek, because that's something that like he makes a point of. And he's like, I'm not running against any of these people. Like Biden, like who is Biden? Like he's not well. He's old. Like he's senile. Like this is elder abuse if I ever seen it. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what this is. Like he's not even running the country. He's just a puppet on a string. We know that. So why are we even talking about him? If we know that he's a puppet on a string, why are we even talking about Biden? Like literally, what he said, it is literally sad. Like I remember, like there was a time last year where I like I kind of snapped out of it because like at the end of the day, Biden's been a criminal, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. But like I'm still a compassionate person at my heart, and like I'm a softy, you know what I'm saying. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself because this nigga like had like fallen down the fucking steps. Biden had fallen down. He had fallen down the steps, man. He fell down the steps, and like everybody was laughing at him. He, and I'm like, this is horrible. Like this is fucking awful. Like I don't want to laugh at this shit. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't think that this is funny at all. I think this is fucking terrible. I think they're trotting this guy out. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he has more than a quarter of his fucking brain left. And they got this motherfucker out here giving speeches and shit, flying all over the world and shit. Like, this nigga, he just wants to sleep. Like, he's old as fuck. He wants to sleep now. Like, that's all he wants to do. Like, and like, they're literally, like, dragging his fucking carcass out, like, pumping this dude fucking whatever they can, you know what I'm saying? Botoxing the shit out of his face to keep him all right, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's bad. Like it's insulting and it's bad and it's sad. Like it's not something that I find, it's not something that I find joy in. You know what I mean? Like, so that's why I really like. Yeah, that's what I don't want to. Oof, that's fucked up.
Move to her. So therefore, it can only be a Republican because you can't rely on either one of them.
All right, Harold, just as Greg was saying, Americans are spending an extra $9 a month more than they were 2 years ago. So if 65% of the voters identify the inflation as a big problem, even bigger than healthcare, drug addiction, or violent crime, shouldn't this be every candidate's priority tonight?
You would imagine it would be, Judge. I mean, you've not heard Republicans talk as much about this either in the House. There seem to be intoxicated with investigating. You see that some of the presidential members, or presidential candidates, excuse me, talking more about how to use government to punish people in the private sector. I hope that Governor DeSantis, I agree with you and Jesse, he's got a big job in that. He's got to do less Disney bashing and give us more of a sense of what he's going to do to make the country stronger. But Joe Biden, we shouldn't kid ourselves. He will, like every other incumbent, have a record to run on. He'll talk about 13 million new jobs. He'll talk about de-risking the American economy from China with the investments in helping us to develop and produce chips here in America, and even $1 trillion investment in infrastructure, and how he rallied the world against Russia in our fight with Ukraine. Now, will these things be enough? He'll have to defend crime, what he's done on it. He'll have to defend what he's done on the border. And I would agree with Greg there. There are things that every incumbent will every incumbent has to defend. And this president will be no exception.
Yeah, who is this guy? Who is this guy? Who is this guy? Who is this guy? Why is he defending the war on Ukraine right now? Like, is this insane? Is this insane? Like, why the fuck am I living in bizarro land right now? Why is somebody on Fox News defending Joe Biden right now? This is insane. I don't get it. I don't fucking get it. I don't get it.
But tonight, we shouldn't kid ourselves either. Which of these candidates can differentiate themselves? Which one can stand out for doing the things that Jesse said well, or I think Greg said it, not just a soundbite on Twitter, but who can get not an applause line, but people that sit back in their chair in that arena and at home and say, wow, that's the kind of leadership I'd like to see over the next 4 years. To me, that's the test.
And, you know, Dana, based on what Harold is just saying, should people be on the stage tonight be attacking Joe Biden, or should they be offering their own solutions?
I think it's a combination. I think because if people are watching tonight, in the back of their mind, they're wondering, is this a person?
I think 100,000%, 1,000,000%, all they need to be doing and all they need to be focused on tonight is espousing their own visions. I don't give a fuck about Joe Biden. I think everybody in America can agree with this one fact. Even with all that's going on, yes, with the Hunter Biden and all that shit and all that, all that, I get it. It's a terrible thing if, you know what I'm saying, it all comes out, and I think it's all true. I'm not saying it's not bad, but I learned about it 3 years ago. Like, y'all are just now catching up with it. I don't give a fuck no more. I know where this is going. I don't care about Joe Biden, and neither did 80% of us. Okay? All we want is to know if you're going to make it easier to pay rent. That's it. That's all we care about. That's all Americans care about. Will you make it so that way we can pay rent? Can we pay rent? Can we pay rent? Will shit get easier to buy? Like, that's all the fuck Americans care about. Like, we don't care about Joe Biden. We don't care about Joe Biden's record. We don't care about like none of that. All we care about is inflation. All we care about is money. Somebody explain why the minimum wage is a terrible idea, please. Like, somebody get on here and explain your vision for the country. Where do you see this country within the next 4 to 8 years? What are you going to do for this country? That is the only thing that people need to be talking about tonight. And I already know that it's going to devolve at some point during this fucking 2 hours. It's going to devolve in a fucking dick swinging contest, a goddamn Trump bashing contest, a Biden bashing contest. Oh, I know. No, I hate Biden more. Oh, I hate Biden more. When nobody gives a fuck. And if that's how the debate turns out, Trump is gonna win. And that's just like it's just a done deal. Like, that's why this debate is really important. Like, somebody has to put the foot forward and actually vision forward. Because whoever does that, whoever actually sticks to the plan for putting their vision forward, what they wanted, like what they plan to do with America for the next 4 to 8 years, unless that like person, like unless like it's a big if, it's a big unless they do that, Trump is gonna win. This debate determines whether Trump stays lingering around 50 to 60% support or jumps all the way up to 90. Like that's what this debate is. Okay, is he going to linger around that 50 to 60 range, or is he going to like? So come on, like I don't think Biden is fun. I don't think he is. It's not a good topic to talk about anymore. Like we know it's bad. We know inflation is bad. Everybody knows that rent is high and wages are low. So what are you going to do about it?
Person that could beat Joe Biden in a general election. And I do hope that we hear a little bit about the Joe Biden policies, right? Because I think a lot of what he calls accomplishments are vulnerabilities. The other thing is recently Ron DeSantis has been pointing out that if he's the nominee, he will not allow Joe Biden just to rest in the basement. What the Democrats have wanted for a long time, and we saw they've wanting to run against Donald Trump. They think that's their best option. Then they got a little nervous. Remember when you were saying about how Ron DeSantis had that momentum for a while, and all of a sudden the media and the White House, everybody was attacking Ron DeSantis. They've backed off of that because they think he also doesn't have that. So does he turn that around tonight? The other thing, interestingly, Judge, is that Joe Biden has just purchased a Spanish language ad in Florida. They have this big, massive ad buy, and part of it is the Spanish language one. And to me, that means that they're recognizing that they are losing ground, especially on the economy with blacks and Hispanics, and they need those demographics to turn out because the Republicans don't have to win all of those votes. They just have to win more than they have before, and they're on the path to do that. So tonight's important for that as well. The last thing is, I love that this Biden advisor said he's not watching the debate because he is focused on the American people. Okay, he's on his second vacation in a month, or maybe I like the whole month. And then today, of all days, to say I'm going to Pilates and spin class. Do you know how much those are? Do you know how much those are? When you talk about $709 you're losing a month, those classes are probably $60, $50 in the place where he is. It doesn't look good. If I were him, I would have been doing something with a factory today because you want to show a contrast. Instead, he's on vacation.
All right, Jesse. His campaign co-chair also told reporters, I don't expect that you'll see Joe Biden respond to any of the attacks. So is Biden so far ahead that, his only concern is Trump? Or, are his numbers based on the disdain for Trump?
Joe Biden doesn't have to do anything because the entire establishment media will do it for him. So he can go to Pilates class and not have to lift a finger. The goal for the candidates tonight is to disqualify President Biden and Bidenomics. Two things. First, on President Biden, you say he is an incompetent, detached, debilitated, corrupt establishment Democrat who, and you point to poignant moments, Hawaii, you point to the Afghanistan withdrawal. You point to things that showcase the fact that he is a callous, cold, out-of-touch human being that doesn't care about you. And then you attack Bidenomics. To Greg's point, you have high rates, you have inflation, gas prices, and illegal immigration. Those things are chewing up take-home pay. Look at the bank account, and it's not what it used to be. And then you pivot to what your plan is. How specifically are you going to close the border? How specifically are you going to boost paychecks? How specifically are you going to pump more oil? Those are the things they need to focus on. You can get cute with the tax, but if you stay focused on policy, that's what the country cares about, solutions.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.
Recordings.
I'll tell you, man, Fox News is just not the same. Fox News is not the same, dog. They were on there slurping them. Slurping hard. We got Crowder getting ready to pull up here. So we're going to tune in to that. We're going to do that on Rumble, though. Because Rumble is where it's at for real. Rumble is where it's at for real. I'm going to leave YouTube. And I'm going to go over to Twitch. Because Twitch is where the money is. Hey, yo, yo, yo.